The glow on her palm should have been nothing. Just another tired night injury on another overlooked girl sweeping the forgotten corners of the campus archives. But when Tia Brooks brushed her thumb over that strange golden amulet, the light beneath her skin pulsed, as if something ancient had finally found her. She wasn't the only one who felt it. A shadow moved at the end of the aisle. A man stepped forward, silver hair catching the dim light, tattoos sliding over his forearms like stories written in ink. His presence didn't belong in a university. It belonged in underground rooms where names were spoken in fear. He shouldn't have been there. She shouldn't have noticed him. But the moment his eyes locked on hers, the air tightened. Tia had spent her whole life being unimportant. The girl who worked night shifts, the girl professors forgot, the girl exhaustion turned invisible. Yet this man stared at her like she was the one thing he'd been hunting. When he reached for the amulet, she instinctively stepped back. The movement was tiny, one quiet retreat, but it changed everything. Because the man in front of her wasn't a stranger. He was Bruno Kang, the Korean Mafia boss people whispered about, the man whose power cracked cities open. And, for the first time in a long, brutal life, he looked unsure. Their fingers brushed the amulet at the same time. The world split. Light roared between them, violent, beautiful, electric. Shelves rattled, papers lifted. The floor trembled beneath their shoes. A scream tore out of a throat that wasn't her own. A curse ripped from lips that weren't his. When the glow died, Tia staggered forward, heavy, wrong, powerful, tattooed skin, broad shoulders, a voice too deep to belong to her. Across from her, Bruno clutched at her hoodie, staring down at borrowed hands. They had switched bodies. Her breath lived in his chest. His heartbeat thundered in her veins. And in the corner of the archive room, the amulet cooled, silent and satisfied, as if this was exactly what it wanted. Tia's quiet, unremarkable life had collided with a world built from blood, loyalty, and secrets. And Bruno Kang, the man who commanded an empire, now found himself stranded in a life that couldn't keep the lights on without three jobs. Two lives, two bodies. One impossible truth. Neither of them would survive the other's world unchanged. And before either could catch their breath, the real danger began. Because this wasn't the start of chaos. This was the moment their story demanded a beginning. What happened in that archive room wasn't luck, or coincidence, or a mistake. It started long before Tia ever lifted a broom, long before Bruno stepped out of the shadows, and long before the amulet woke up in their hands. To understand how their worlds collided, you have to understand the night Tia found the amulet and the man who followed its trail right to her. If you're still here, wrapped up in this story with me, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me where in the world you're watching from. And if this chapter has pulled you in so far, give this story a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to enjoy more intriguing stories like this. Tia's first breath wasn't hers. It dragged through lungs too big, too strong, too unfamiliar. A sharp inhale that rattled through a chest, marked with scars she'd never earned. The cold marble floor pressed against her palms, but even her hands weren't hers. They were broader, veined, powerful, and tattooed with black dragons curling up her forearms like something alive. She jerked back. Her movements were heavier than she expected, like every limb belonged to someone carved from stone. Panic twisted in her stomach. This isn't real. This can't be real. But then the echo of boots filled the library, cutting through the silence like blades. Men in black suits flooded in, fast, silent, coordinated. Not a single pair of eyes landed on her with confusion. Not one weapon raised, not even for a check. They bowed, deeply, respectfully, fearfully. "Boss," one of them breathed, head still lowered. "We came as soon as the alarms activated." "Boss?" Tia froze. The room spun. Her heart thundered inside a chest that didn't belong to her. Bruno Kang's chest. The Korean Mafia boss who was kneeling in front of her only moments ago, now wearing her body. She didn't have time to process. Not when 12 men were staring at her like she was a deity, a tyrant, a king. Behind them, near the far wall, a strangled sound broke the tension. Her voice. "Yeah!" Bruno snapped, except it came out high, soft, and painfully human. "Back up! Don't touch her!" The men stiffened. They turned toward the small figure wearing her hoodie, her sneakers, her face. But the voice that came out of that body didn't match the fear they expected. It was furious, sharp, unhinged. But the suits didn't react the way he wanted. Tia saw it immediately. They weren't intimidated. They were confused. "What is she doing here?" one whispered. "Is she insane?" another murmured. "Talking to the boss like—" "I said back up!" Bruno barked again, but in Tia's voice, it sounded like a frustrated undergrad losing her patience at the campus cafeteria. The men didn't move. Their attention snapped back to her. The man she looked like. The man whose entire empire feared him. The man whose body she was inside. One of them stepped forward cautiously. "Boss, permission to remove the girl?" Tia's stomach dropped. "Girl?" she whispered. Bruno froze, her frozen expression on his unfamiliar face. And for the first time since the light swallowed them, she watched fear flicker through him. Real fear. "No one touches her," Tia blurted, and the voice that thundered out of her mouth wasn't hers. It was low, cold, commanding. The man stepped back instantly. Bruno stared at her like the world had shifted again, as if he'd just witnessed a miracle and a disaster at the same time. "Tia," he whispered, voice trembling inside her throat. "Don't talk. Don't move. Don't breathe like that. You're going to get us both killed." Her heart hammered. "What do you want me to do? I'm in your body." "And I'm in yours," he hissed. Her face twisted with his frustration. Seeing herself look that angry was surreal enough to make her dizzy. "Boss," a guard said carefully, "you're bleeding." Tia blinked. "Bleeding?" She looked down. A small cut on Bruno's palm, her palm, inside his skin, glowed faintly with the same blue shimmer the amulet gave off before everything exploded. "The amulet!" she gasped. But the floor where it fell was empty. It was gone. Completely. Someone must have taken it in the chaos. Or it vanished on its own. She had no idea how any of this worked. Bruno cursed under his breath, in her voice, and staggered toward her. He tried grabbing her shoulders to steady himself, but his smaller arms trembled. His grip was weak. His height barely reached her chin. For the first time, the Mafia boss, known for breaking men in half, looked fragile. "Stop staring," he muttered. "You're making it worse." "You're tiny," she whispered. He glared, using her eyes. "Say that again, and You'll what?" she shot back. "Give me detention?" His mouth fell open, her mouth, and Tia almost laughed at the absurdity bubbling in her chest. But the weight of everything crashed back down like a falling ceiling. The men shifted nervously, waiting for orders. "Boss," one said. Should we escort you back to the compound? It isn't safe here. Bruno looked up at Tia, helpless for the first time in his life. They think I'm you, he murmured. And they think I'm you, she whispered back. Silence stretched between them, thick and overwhelming. Then one of the guards stepped closer. Boss, the longer we stay here, the more exposed we are. Bruno swallowed hard. Tia, listen to me, he said, voice trembling but steadying itself by sheer force of will. You need to act like me, right now, before they notice anything's wrong. Her breath hitched. I don't know how to be you. You don't have a choice. A cold wave washed over her, because he was right. One wrong move, one crack in the facade, one hint that the man they worshipped wasn't really the man they saw. And both of them would be dead before sunrise. She forced herself to stand straighter, shoulders back, jaw tight. The way he had stood before the amulet ripped their lives apart. The guards bowed again, mistaking her panic for silent authority. Young Nim, the closest one said respectfully. Your orders? Tia swallowed. Her throat burned. Take us somewhere safe, she managed, low and clipped, just like Bruno spoke. The men nodded instantly. Bruno stared at her, stunned. Tia, he whispered, awe coating her voice. That was terrifying. A tiny shaky breath escaped her, a laugh that didn't feel real. Get used to it, she murmured. You built this world. And now you're inside it, he said. He glanced at her, at the towering, dangerous image of himself standing in the ruins of the library. And I'm inside yours. The guards moved, opening a path. The room buzzed with tension as they waited for her to walk forward, to lead, to be the monster Bruno Kang had spent a lifetime becoming. Tia took a step. It felt like stepping into someone else's nightmares, someone else's blood, someone else's life. The wrong body, the wrong world, and the start of a danger she couldn't escape. Bruno followed behind her in silence, swallowed by the shadow of the world he used to own. Neither of them looked back at the empty floor behind them. Neither of them saw the faint pulse of blue light that shimmered and died where the amulet once lay. The car ride felt like being trapped inside someone else's nightmare. Tia sat in the back of the armored SUV, Bruno's body towering over leather seats that seemed embarrassed to hold this much power. Outside, city lights streaked past, but inside, everything was too silent. Bruno sat beside her, in her smaller form, trembling from the cold air conditioning he couldn't seem to handle. He was tucked between two of his own men, who kept glancing down at him like he was a stray cat that had wandered into the wrong alley. He tried scowling. It looked adorable. Tia could practically hear his dignity cracking. Stop looking at me like that, he muttered under his breath. I'm still your boss. One of the guards exchanged a look with the other, whispering, Is she okay? Why is she talking to herself? Tia almost groaned. This was going to be a disaster. The SUV pulled through a secured gate into a courtyard lit by floodlights. Armed guards stood on balconies. Surveillance cameras followed every step. The compound looked like a fortress where even shadows had rules. The car doors opened. Boss, the men said in unison, bowing as Tia stepped out. She tried copying the way Bruno walked in the brief moments she'd seen him. Shoulders back, chin high, every step a threat. Her legs felt like they were learning gravity. Inside, the compound buzzed with activity. Men rushed through corridors carrying documents, weapons, secrets. They stopped every time they saw her, bowing low enough that their foreheads nearly touched the floor. Every bow felt like a lie she wasn't skilled enough to maintain. They led her into a private office, Bruno's office, a room heavy with leather, smoke, and control. A long table sat at the center, covered in files stamped with warnings she didn't understand. A dozen lieutenants were already seated, heads bowed. One looked up, Usher, tall, sharp-featured, with eyes like polished knives. "Young Nim," he said, "we have 3 urgent matters to discuss." 3? Tia tried not to faint. Usher slid a file toward her. She opened it. Dense text, names she couldn't recognize, codes she didn't understand, pictures of men with their eyes blacked out. She forced a steady breath. What would Bruno do? He wouldn't ask questions. He wouldn't show confusion. He wouldn't flinch at violence. So she lifted her head and said the first thing that felt cold enough to pass the test. "Summarize it?" They all stiffened. Usher swallowed. We, we believed you'd want to read it personally." "Summarize it," she repeated, praying her voice stayed even. Usher bowed instantly, and as he explained the tangled web of betrayal and money laundering, she tried to keep eye contact, nodding at moments that sounded important, even though her brain was begging for subtitles. The second file was about a missing shipment. The third was a hit placed on Bruno's life, meaning on her. By the fourth sentence, her hands were shaking. By the fifth, sweat slid down her spine. These men would kill on command, and she couldn't even interpret their acronyms. Meanwhile, across the city, Bruno marched across campus like a man possessed, in Tia's body, with Tia's shoes that squeaked with every step, and Tia's backpack sliding off one shoulder. He hated it. He especially hated the way people bumped into him without so much as a glance. Invisible. He'd never been invisible. "This place is a war zone," he muttered, dodging a skateboarder. "And not the good kind." He made it to Tia's first class, sliding into a desk that felt too small to contain his ego. Students around him typed lazily on laptops, some yawning, some eating chips. Then the professor called attendance. "Tia Brooks?" Bruno raised one hand, annoyed. "Here." The professor didn't even look up. "You sound different today." Bruno blinked. "And you sound nosy." Several students snickered. This wasn't good. He was used to commanding rooms with a single glare. Here, he wasn't even intimidating enough to silence college freshmen. His phone buzzed. When he checked it, his face, Tia's face, paled. "Rent due in 4 days. Notice." Another buzz. "Janitorial shift, tonight at 11 p.m. Another. "Callie, girl, are you alive? You didn't text back." Another. "Laura, don't forget the group project. We're not failing because of you again." Bruno gripped the phone until his knuckles whitened. What the hell was wrong with your life? He could face armed men without blinking. But midterms? Rent? Passive-aggressive texts? This was torture. Back at the compound, Usher finished his report and waited for Tia's response. 12 men stared at her. 12 killers. 12 loyalists who expected the monster she was impersonating. She cleared her throat. "Handle it." Usher blinked. "Which issue, boss?" "All of them." The room went still. She forced Bruno's signature cold stare, the one she'd seen for only 3 seconds, but was now trying to imitate with every ounce of her soul. "I trust your judgment," she said. "If someone needs to be punished, punish them. If someone needs to disappear, make it happen." Usher's eyes widened just slightly. Approval or fear? She couldn't tell. But The room bowed. And for a heartbeat, a single heartbeat, Tia Brooks, exhausted college janitor, looked like a man whose name was carved in the bones of the city. The meeting dissolved, men scattering to do her bidding. As soon as the door clicked shut, she collapsed into Bruno's leather chair, hands trembling so violently she had to grip the armrest to steady herself. Bruno must do this every day. No wonder he walked like a storm. Across town, Bruno must have reached the same realization, because as he left Tia's class, Callie spotted him immediately. "Tia," she called, rushing up. "Whoa, you look weird. Are you sick? Did you cry? Why are your feet moving like that?" Bruno stared at her, deadpan. "I am going through something far worse than death." Callie squinted. "Okay, drama queen." Laura joined them, frowning. "You didn't take notes." "You always take notes." Behind them, a professor called out, "Miss Brooks, a moment, please." Bruno flinched. The world closed in. 3 voices: rent, exams, fake friends, real friends, deadlines, expectations. He was drowning, and for the first time in 2 brutal, unforgiving worlds. Both he and Tia realized the same truth. Neither of their lives were built for the other. And yet, for now, they had no choice but to survive inside the fire. Night settled over the city like a bruise, deep and pulsing. Tia slipped through the back entrance of the abandoned greenhouse behind the old science building. Bruno's instructions whispered through Tia's stolen phone. "Come alone," he'd said. "Don't let anyone follow you. Don't speak until I say so." His paranoia usually annoyed her, but tonight, her pulse matched the urgency in his voice. Inside, moonlight dripped through broken glass panes. Dust floated through the air like quiet ghosts. And then, Tia. Bruno stepped out of the shadows, wearing her body like borrowed armor. Her hoodie hung loosely on him, her jeans were rolled twice at the ankles. He looked wrong and worried and furious all at once. "You took too long," he whispered. "I had to escape a meeting with 12 men who call me Young Neem," she hissed. "Forgive me if I didn't sprint." His shoulders tightened. "You shouldn't be there. I didn't choose it." They stood there, 2 lives, 2 hearts, 1 curse, staring at each other across the ruined greenhouse. Bruno stepped closer. "We found something." "We?" she asked. "My men retrieved the amulet's casing. The stone is gone, but the frame—" He reached into his pocket, pulling out the amulet's hollow shell. Its dragon engraving cracked down the center. He held it up to the moonlight. "That wasn't there before," he murmured. On the inside curve of the metal, faint scratches glowed like embers. Words. Or something pretending to be words. Tia leaned in. "What does it say?" Bruno swallowed. "You read it." She blinked. "Why me?" "Because when I try, it just hurts." Tia exhaled and took the amulet frame. It pulsed warm in her hand, a throb that traveled straight up her arm. The glyph-like markings shimmered softly, rearranging themselves into English letters. Her voice quivered as she read. "To see another's soul, you must walk in their fear." The greenhouse went silent. Completely, devastatingly silent. "That's it," she whispered. "That's all it says?" Bruno stiffened. "That's enough." Tia closed her eyes, the truth hitting her with the same weight as his men's guns earlier that day. Her fear, his fear. Not random, not cursed by accident, not punished by some ancient prankster god. Intentional. "Your fear," Bruno said softly, "is being unseen." She opened her eyes. "You're afraid of people looking through you, forgetting you." The words shouldn't have hurt, but they did. "And mine?" she asked. He hesitated. "You're afraid of being powerless," she finished for him. Bruno's jaw clenched, but he didn't deny it. The amulet hadn't punished them. It had exposed them. "You think this is some spiritual lesson?" Bruno said, pacing. "Some cosmic therapy tool? I don't need enlightenment. I need my life back." "So do I." He stopped pacing, looked at her, fully looked. "Then we break it," he said. "We understand it. We find the stone. We reverse the switch. For once," she said quietly, "we might actually agree." The fragile piece lasted all of 8 seconds. A metallic crack burst through the air. The sound wasn't glass. It wasn't the amulet. It was sharper, deadlier, a gunshot. "Tia, down!" Bruno lunged, slamming into her, his own body colliding with her borrowed height. And they crashed behind a thick stone planter. Soil exploded above them as a second bullet tore through the greenhouse roof. Tia's heart stopped. "They're shooting at me," she gasped. "No," Bruno breathed, dragging her lower behind the planter. "They're shooting at my body." Her stomach twisted. "That doesn't comfort me." Shadows moved outside the broken glass walls. 2 figures, maybe 3, trained, fast, and armed. "Tia," Bruno whispered. "Listen to me. You have to stay low. Don't run. Don't make a sound." Her breath shook. "Are you kidding me? I can't die in your body. Your men will never believe it's me." "They won't believe it's me either," he snapped. A third bullet ricocheted off metal, sparks hissing into the darkness. Tia covered her ears, shaking. She'd never been this close to death. Not even close. Bruno grabbed her face, her own face, but held in those large, steady hands she used to see only in news clips about international crime syndicates. "Look at me," he ordered. She did. "You're safe with me." A lie, a promise, maybe both. He peeked over the planter for a split second. Another bullet whistled past, grazing the concrete near his head. He ducked back down immediately. "They're snipers," he muttered. "Paid. Professional. They knew where to find us." "Your world is insane." "My world is prepared for danger," he said under his breath. "Yours is not." A beat of quiet settled, the dangerous kind, the kind that means someone is reloading. Bruno shifted, positioning himself between her and the shooters, even though technically she was the one in his body and his strength. But instinct ran deeper than physics. He'd shield her, even if she wore a paper bag. Outside, the footsteps faded. A car engine roared. Glass cracked as someone vaulted through a window. And then, silence. Tia exhaled, trembling. "Are they gone?" "For now." She shook her head, breath hitching. "If I had stood 1 inch to the left, you'd be dead," he finished bluntly. Her eyes burned. He didn't sugarcoat survival. He lived it. Tia leaned back against the planter, breathing hard as the realization sank its claws deeper. She wasn't just trapped in his body. She was trapped in his death sentence. Bruno touched the amulet frame again. The inscription flickered faintly. "To see another's soul, you must walk in their fear." They meant literally, he whispered. "We're not learning each other's fear," she said, voice trembling. "We're living them." Bruno nodded. And somewhere, beyond the broken greenhouse and the echo of bullets, the amulet pulsed. Quiet, ancient, watching. Not finished. Not yet. The greenhouse still smelled like gunpowder and broken promises when the amulet began to glow. Not softly, not gently, but with a violent, pulsing heat, like something ancient had woken up angry. Tia felt it first, a burn across the sternum under Bruno's tattoos. She gasped, clutching her chest. Bruno, it's doing something! I know, he whispered, gripping her wrist, because her body was flickering, light coiling around her like smoke. Don't move. I'm not trying to move, she snapped, voice shaking. The amulet frame rattled on the ground beside them, the inscription glowing brighter and brighter until it almost blinded them. To see another's soul, you must walk in their fear. The words pulsed. The greenhouse shook. And then everything split open. Light swallowed the space, swallowing their bodies, their shadows, their breath. For a heartbeat, the world blurred, their forms twisted, their lungs emptied, and then Tia collapsed into herself, but this time, into herself. She gasped, and the sound was hers, her voice, her pitch, her breath. She looked down, her hands, her skin, her heartbeat, her body. The weight she'd been carrying, Bruno's strength, his scars, his height, vanished. She felt small again, soft, ordinary, terrified, and she'd never felt so relieved. Across from her, Bruno staggered, gripping a metal beam. When he lifted his head, his own face stared back again. Sharp jawline, silver hair, tattoos half hidden beneath his shirt. He exhaled shakily. Tia, we're back. It was barely a whisper, but the relief in it was loud. She pressed a hand to her chest. Bruno, my voice, my body. He stepped closer, slow, as if approaching something fragile. It's temporary. I can feel it. The amulet's unstable. I don't care. She laughed through a sob. I'm me again. Her legs gave out. Bruno caught her immediately, arms strong and certain around her waist. You're safe, he murmured. You're okay? Don't lie, she whispered into his shirt. His hands tightened. You're okay with me? The admission settled between them like a dangerous truth. For a long moment, neither moved. Her fingers curled around his shirt without permission. His breath brushed the top of her head. His heartbeat pounded against her cheek, too fast, too human. Tia, he said softly, look at me. She did. And the look he gave her, the look she'd only seen hinted at in the wrong body, was devastating. It wasn't his command, or his coldness, or the violence that always lived behind his eyes. It was something terrifyingly tender, a hunger wrapped in restraint, a question asked without words. Bruno! Her throat tightened. This can't. I know. His voice was a low ache. It shouldn't. But we're back, she whispered. For one night. His breath hitched. One night, he repeated, like the idea hurt him. Then, the air shifted. Their bodies leaned. Gravity made the decision for them. His hand slid along her jaw. Her breath caught. And then, the world fell away. When he kissed her, it was slow at first, deliberate, a warning, a plea, a promise he wasn't sure he had the right to make. Tia had spent weeks inside his world, inside his body, inside his shadow. But this was Bruno without fear of weakness, Bruno without walls, Bruno without curses or amulets or enemies watching. This was him wanting, and her wanting him back. Her fingers tangled in his hair. His mouth deepened against hers. Her back met the cool greenhouse wall. His body pressed warm against hers. Everything she'd felt, the frustration, the fear, the tension that simmered every time they argued, crashed into something reckless, something unstoppable, something that felt like stepping into fire and not caring about the burn. Tia, he whispered against her lips, breath shaking. Tell me to stop. She didn't. She couldn't. And he didn't. Hours unfolded in pieces, whispered names, trembling hands, shadows moving like they belonged to someone else. A night neither of them meant to create. A night they couldn't undo. A night that changed everything. When dawn crept in through the shattered windows, Tia's eyelashes fluttered open. She lay tangled with him, skin on skin, the world outside quiet for the first time in weeks. Bruno was awake, watching her like he was memorizing her. "You're staring," she whispered. "I know." She swallowed. "This, we don't know what it means." "We will," he said. Not a promise, not a threat, just a truth. He leaned in to kiss her again, but the amulet crackled violently on the floor. Blue light sparked, then surged. "Bruno!" she gasped, clutching his arm. "No, not yet!" A flash swallowed the greenhouse. Their bodies twisted, their breath ripped from their lungs, and the world went white. When the light faded, Tia opened her eyes inside Bruno's body again. She screamed. Bruno, inside her body, staggered to his feet, eyes wide with grief and fury. "Tia!" he yelled, reaching for her. But the amulet flickered again. Then he vanished, not in light, not in smoke, just gone. A snap of energy, and he was pulled back into his own world, his own empire, his own darkness, leaving Tia standing there in his body, alone, shaking, barely breathing, with the memory of his hands still on her skin, and the weight of a night that she knew, deep in her bones, would come back to change everything. Silence slammed into the greenhouse the moment Bruno disappeared. No crack of energy, no fading light, just absence, sharp and cold. Tia stood there, frozen inside his body, her breath trapped in lungs that weren't hers. Her skin buzzed with the echo of his touch, his warmth, his voice saying her name. And then the weight of reality hit her. "He left," she whispered. The voice that spilled out, deep, low, dangerous, wasn't hers. "He left me." The amulet shell lay on the cracked floor, dark and dead. No glow, no pulse, no explanation. Bruno Kang was gone, and she was alone in his world. Again. By sunrise, the compound was roaring. Usher met her at the entrance of the manor, eyes sharp as razors. David hovered nearby, whispering into his earpiece. The men looked, disturbed and suspicious. "Boss," Usher said carefully, "we could not locate you all night." Tia swallowed. "I needed space." "Space?" Usher exchanged a look with David. "You never need space." Tia stiffened. Bruno probably didn't, but she did. And every slip she made rewrote their expectations, line by dangerous line. David stepped closer. "We also detected a breach near the university greenhouse. Bullet casings, footprints, your footprints." A knot tightened in her stomach. "We handled the scene," Usher continued, tone colder. "But you didn't order it. You always order it." A warning, a threat, a question. Tia forced Bruno's glare, the one she'd practiced in every reflective surface. "You're questioning me," she said. Usher lowered his head instantly. But the damage was done. He'd seen too much. All of them had. Bruno's lieutenants were starting to notice their king wasn't the man he used to be. And they weren't men who forgave weakness. Days bled into each other. Meetings, murmured suspicions, eyes watching her too closely. Orders she didn't understand. She mimicked Bruno's coldness, but second-guessing was a death sentence in his world. Several men had already overheard her stumbling over protocols. One soldier whispered, "The boss is soft this week." Another murmured, "Something's wrong with him. Wrong, wrong." Rumors coiled through the compound like smoke. dangerous smoke, and it was only a matter of time before someone struck a match. Meanwhile, Bruno was tearing the underworld apart, not the loud way, the quiet, lethal way. He traveled through back alley temples, black market museums, hidden auction dens that dealt in cursed relics and stolen magic. He hunted the amulet with the intensity of a man surviving without oxygen. He found monks who remembered legends. He found old men who spoke in riddles. He found dealers who flinched when he said the word soul. But what he didn't find was Tia. Not once did he call. Not once did he check on her. Not once did he realize she was in danger, or that she wasn't in her body anymore. He assumed she was safer without him. He assumed wrong. A week later, Tia dragged herself across campus wearing Bruno's body like a heavy, haunted costume. His muscles weren't built for exhaustion. Her bones, buried inside his frame, felt bruised. She had slept only in gasps. She had eaten only enough to avoid collapsing. And every night, she wondered, was Bruno searching for her? Did he regret leaving? Did their night together mean anything? Or had she been a moment of comfort in a cursed storm? She shoved the thoughts down as she entered a lecture hall through the back, head low, hoodie pulled up to hide Bruno's unmistakable hair. Callie spotted her immediately. "There you are," Callie whispered. "You ghosted us again. Are you okay? You look terrible," Laura said, sliding into the seat beside her. Like death warmed up. "What's happening with you, Tia?" Tia pressed her palms to her eyes. "I'm just tired." "That's not tired," Callie said. "That's collapse in the bathroom, tired." Tia's heart pounded. Her stomach turned. The room spun, slowly, then violently. She clutched the desk. "Hey, hey!" Callie grabbed her arm. "Tia?" Laura's eyes widened. "She's shaking. I'm—" Tia tried to speak, but her voice, Bruno's voice, cracked like breaking stone. And then the floor rushed up to meet her. A scream, hands grabbing her, voices echoing in strange tunnels. Callie shouting her name, Laura crying for help. Everything blurred. Everything slurred. Everything went black. When she woke, fluorescent lights hummed softly above her. Callie held her left hand. Laura held her right. A nurse whispered outside the curtain. Papers shuffled. A doctor cleared his throat before stepping in. "Tia?" he asked gently. She nodded weakly. His eyes were soft in a way that made the air heavy. "We've run your tests." Callie tightened her grip. Laura didn't breathe, and the doctor said the words that cracked the world open. "You're pregnant." The air froze. Time froze. Her heart froze. Pregnant? Pregnant. Pregnant. Callie's jaw dropped. "What?" Laura whispered. "Tia, what? How?" But Tia wasn't listening, because her mind had already left the room. It had gone back to the greenhouse, to the night she'd been herself, to the man who held her like she mattered, to his mouth on hers, to his body against hers, to the breathless moment when the world made sense for one night. One night. Bruno. Her chest clenched, her breath shattered. The father of her child was the man who disappeared, the man who left her to survive his world alone, the man whose empire she was currently running and failing. Her throat trembled, voice breaking inside Bruno's stolen timbre. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." Callie leaned closer. "Tia, we're here. Whatever it is, it's him," she choked. "It's Bruno." Callie and Laura froze, and Tia realized the truth as it sank into her like a blade. She wasn't abandoned. She wasn't protected. She was both, and neither. She was pregnant, alone, in the wrong body, in the wrong world, with a child whose father ruled the streets. And somewhere, out there, Bruno Kang was ripping apart the underworld in search of an amulet, having no idea he'd left more behind than just her.